Gaming system calibration, the game launcher is ready. Welcome players to the Incarnation of Everything game. The following are some game descriptions of this game. You can have an incarnation every month, incarnate into lower life and things. Precautions guide task. Please try your best to imagine a tree desperately absorbing nutrients from the soil in your thoughts, and give continuous rewards depending on the depth and time of your imagination. Oak tree? And is it a dying oak tree? Looking down, GU observes his so-called avatar and the scene below the avatar. UU reading www.uuganshu.com feels a little weird. The oak tree that GU has transformed is about 50 meters high, and the torso is at least 7 meters thick. But such a sturdy oak tree is now clearly different from the low oak trees on both sides of the stone road. The bare branches, the dry bark, and the massive rotting roots hidden under the soil all show that the oak tree at this moment is approaching the end of its life. However, the death of this oak tree is obviously a reality that the indigenous people in this place are unwilling to accept at this moment. Therefore, these aborigines are using their own methods to save their own sacred things. At this moment, there is a mottled stone-high platform under the giant oak tree that GU transformed into. And on this high platform, a wild boar with long tusks is being pressed and stabbed in the neck by several wild men with unknown paint on their faces. The blood flowed down the groove on the high platform, and smoothly entered a blood pool about 1 meter in diameter in front of the giant oak tree GU. The black and red blood in this blood pool is almost solidified, and there are many insects and flies flying around. Just a cursory glance at GU is a little physically uncomfortable. Blood Festival. As described in most of the film and television works, GU now sees exactly the same picture. The wild boar shook its legs and slowly lost its sound, and without exception, all the blood flowed into the blood pool directly under the oak tree. Then, an older savage with a feather crown and holding an oak scepter began to chant that GU could not understand at all. And under the singing of this primitive tribal elder, hundreds of wild men kneeling on the stone path at this moment kept crowing and shouting. With a curiosity towards the unknown, towards the primitive ethnic group that has never been seen before, GU completely acts as a spectator at this moment. As for the discomfort of the pig blood sacrifice, GU can still bear it. After all, GU grew up in the countryside when he was a child, and he did not miss the scene of killing pigs during the New Year. Therefore, after slightly adjusting his mentality, he quietly became the audience of this ceremony. In this process, the tribal elders under the oak tree sang and danced, giving people a feeling of weirdness. However, this weirdness actually exists on the Blue Star. The whole ceremony didn't last long, it just ended in about 10 minutes. Looking at the savage gradually dispersing, and the tribal elder sitting under the tree with his eyes closed, GU couldn't help but sigh. This game is really good at picking objects. Choose one that catches the eye when you come up. Dead oak trees, primitive tribes, and blood sacrifices are indeed fresh enough. After murmuring a few words to himself, GU began to look at this primitive tribe. This primitive tribe is not too big, and there are only more than 100 wooden houses in the surrounding forest. Just a rough estimate of GU can probably know that the population of this tribe should be around 500 people. After the ceremony, some of these unclothed savages began to tinker with ingredients, some with unknown herbs, and some took up spears and bows and arrows and headed away from the gathering point. So, after looking around curiously, GU converged his mind and turned his attention back to business. This game is not simple, no need to say more, but now GU has to play according to the game guide, and also wants to wait and see the future. Looking at the guide introduction at the top of his panoramic view interface, GU seemed a little hesitant. Imagine a tree trying to absorb nutrients from the soil to get rewards. It doesn't seem to be difficult, right? GU's character belongs to a serious action school, so he tried to do it as soon as he thought of it. It is also GU's attempt. A few minutes later. Ding! Congratulations for successfully letting the avatar enter the meditation state after hard work, the first success, Oak Tree Vitality plus 0.05. When such a line of font appeared on GU's information panel, GU clearly felt a sense of comfort in his perception of being an oak tree. This feeling is something GU has never experienced before. Curiosity was mixed with a trace of expectation for the unknown. GU immediately continued his efforts after successfully meditating. 5 minutes later. Native feature. Lane Federal Weiyang City, in a 15story single apartment in a residential building in Shengheng Real Estate, Donghe District. GU immediately felt dizzy in front of him when he woke up. Then, a strong sense of hunger came as promised. Hungry, very hungry. I haven't eaten for 12 hours, but this hunger pang is like having no food for a day. Not to mention GU, he is still a patient. No matter what, GU immediately stood up and got up and pulled open the bread bag, then began to hug. A few minutes later, drank a little water and belched a full hiccup. GU then realized that his weak state was a bit strange. It doesn't hurt much anymore? My chest is not as dull as before. GU touched his chest and took a deep breath. Although he still feels stuffy, he can't feel the dull pain in his chest when he inhales deeply. At this moment, GU is already clear. My own situation is likely to have improved a lot, because of the game? Surprise? Excitement? Sitting by the bed, GU called out the status panel while hesitating. Player status weakness strong vitality? GU was stunned, but then tried to calm down the excitement in his heart. Average means the average physique of human beings. It's not difficult to understand, but my current physique is only 0.39. Just looking at this value, GU can know that his previous body must be worse than this. 3 months of hemoptysis from tuberculosis has already tortured GU a lot. GU feels a lot of comfort and gratefulness for the sudden relief. GU knew that this sudden appearance of the game would not be ordinary, but GU never expected that the effect of this game would be so prominent. It's only 12 hours, and my heart is so happy. Although GU wants to go out for a trot to try, but for GU who has a history of hemoptysis, although the serious illness has improved, he can't be too proud. Thinking about the big hemoptysis caused by the trot before, GU had a lingering fear, so at this moment, he quickly pressed down the excitement in his heart. Lane time, around 10:10 in the morning. I ordered a formal breakfast with my mobile phone. After washing, GU sat down at the computer desk. Turn on the computer and enter keywords such as Southern Lazhu, primitive tribe, brown race, oak tree, and other keywords on the search engine. Then, GU quickly got a bunch of search results. But, the result is not very satisfactory. Because there are more than 200 known primitive tribes in Nanla, and most of these tribe information is relatively general, there is no detailed introduction at all. The reason for this incomplete information is because these primitive tribes are very exclusive. Most of them refuse outsiders to enter the tribe for activities. And because of the French protection of the world-leading UNESCO protection organization, these primitive tribes are of course better equipped to implement the occlusion system. So, it is really not too difficult to search the internet for all the information about the primitive tribe that GU himself knows. However, one thing is good is that GU clearly knows the location of the primitive tribe. Only because GU's field of vision fell into the blue star step by step from space. And that's the case. GU will soon know the specific location of the primitive tribe after opening the world map. The tropical rainforest near the equator of the Federal Republic of Bana. This distance is really far enough. This game will only give a so-called game avatar every month, and the only avatar of oneself is obviously not accidental, otherwise, it will be an unknown whether or not this strong vitality added body will exist. After all, it is semi-permanent. Sexual explanations can explain the problem very well. After looking for a long time, GU leaned back on the chair and fell into deep thought. The first level avatar can get one trait randomly, so is it understandable that the second level avatar can get 2 traits from the avatar? This is the high probability, right? Thinking of this, Ji-Yu's heart suddenly became very interested. If possible, Ji-Yu really hopes that this game has no game time limit, but the reality is 12 hours. Something is better than nothing, but you can't be greedy. So, in this state of eagerness, Ji-Yu directly waited until 12 noon. The game time limit was lifted for an instant. Ji-Yu entered the game again without saying a word, and quickly controlled the incarnation of the oak tree. Late at night, in the pouring rain, Ji-Yu once again returned to the familiar and unfamiliar primitive tribe. Under the panoramic view of night vision, Ji-Yu looked around and sighed again. This kind of vision plus night vision is really novel. Although it's the second time to use this kind of vision to see everything around, I still feel a little uncomfortable. In self-muttering, Ji-Yu, along with the novelty, began to test the scope and limitation of the vision brought by his avatar. Then, the result of Ji-Yu's measurement in the past half an hour came out. Currently, Ji-Yu's panoramic field of vision is the highest point of the oak tree's branches and leaves, and Ji-Yu has an ultra-clear field of vision based on this basis. This ultra-clear area is maintained within 15 meters of the area where the oak tree is located. Are as small as ants, mosquitoes, etc., within Ji-Yu's ultra-clear field of vision, he can see their small limbs and slight movements without any effort. Within this magical 15-meter range, nothing can cover Ji-Yu's vision, which is quite magical. Just like now, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com is on the side of Ji-Yu's oak tree, and the figure of the tribal elders sleeping on the side in the wooden house is completely clear to Ji-Yu's eyes. All these novel experiences made Ji-Yu feel fresh, and at the same time made him feel insignificant when he was an ordinary human. Sigh, return to sigh, Ji-Yu will not forget what he should do. Then, Ji-Yu quickly measured the current far-sighted field, which was about 1 kilometer. This 1 kilometer is the result of calculation in the heavy rain of this night. If it is placed on a clear day in the day, this field of view is estimated to be farther. After obtaining the current field of vision data, although Ji-Yu lamented the wide field of view, he was a little disappointed in playing in a short period of time, but he was very self-controlled to return to the recovery of the avatar body. Because as far as the current situation is concerned, Ji-Yu feels that time is much more pressing than money. This is Ji-Yu's sickly physical needs, and the other is because of the state needs of the incarnation of the oak tree. Therefore, under this dual need situation, Ji-Yu quickly put himself into that kind of paradoxical self-hypnosis, that is, a state of meditation. In the darkness of night, in Ji-Yu's meditation, the vitality of the oak tree is continuously increasing in small increments. Either 5 minutes will increase vitality by 0.02, or 10 minutes will increase by 0.03 vitality. In short, in this uncertain and fluctuating situation, the oak tree that Ji-Yu incarnates is changing at a speed visible to the human eye. And as the oak tree's vitality continues to recover, the oak tree roots that had been slightly restored at this moment continue to grow in large numbers and quickly regenerate new root systems. At the same time, on the trunk of the oak tree, countless branches are growing vigorously, and a large number of shoots are still emerging. So, until dawn gradually arrives. Once again entered the incarnation of the oak tree, it was already 10 noon in the rainforest of Bana. Since the sun is too harsh, Ji-Yu didn't see many wild people under the tree. It's rare for these savages to see a miracle without frantically holding a bigger event. This is also a rare reason. But this is fine, it won't bother me quietly cultivating immortals. Ji-Yu laughed alone, and then went into the meditation state again. No words in the meantime. Woke up again, it was already very late in the evening. The light of dusk on the horizon fades. Under the oak tree, the crowd gathered. Large and small bonfires are lit, and several pigs raised by the savage tribe themselves are being pulled. The howling of wild boars mixed with the festive atmosphere on the faces of the wild people of the tribe together created a very unusual and exotic scene. The women sharpened their knives and prepared various ingredients, while the men were setting up the celebration scene. On both sides of the stone walkway, the numerous oak branches guarding the sacred tree are all tied with colorful strips of colorful cloth. At the same time, unlike early morning, Gu also discovered that the number of the savage tribe had suddenly increased. As soon as Gu woke up, his field of vision focused on the numerous wild men with guns on their backs that appeared on the outermost periphery of the road. No, it is not right to say that they are savages, because these savages are very different from the tribal aborigines. They wear chemical fiber clothes and pants that are only used in civilized society, and some even wear a peaked cap. And these aborigines in the tribe are all wearing loincloths such as animal skins. As for decent clothes and pants, does not exist at all. But, it is in such a sharp contrast. In this tribe, the duel between civilization and barbarism is obviously the barbarians' victory. The reason is very simple, because Gu even saw an aboriginal wearing a loincloth teaching several outsiders carrying guns, and these outsiders lowered their heads and humiliatedly did not dare to speak. At the same time, the fact that these outsiders can only stop at the outermost periphery of the road can explain the status issue. Interesting. Gu watched curiously, but also noticed the only strong young man wearing full clothes and pants beside the tribe elder. The tribal elder smiled, and the strong young man was supporting the tribal elder and talking intimately with some short words that seemed like a parent. Is this the son of the chief outside? Or is it a grandson? Is this primitive tribe a holy place similar to a tribe? In order to maintain the purity of traditional culture and inheritance, so the original life is maintained here? Gu was thoughtful, and at the same time began to speculate about the relationship between the tribe and the so-called outsiders. In this observation process, Gu feels helpless because of language barrier. A few sentences in a comprehensible language anyway. For example, the global lingua franca of Western New York, although Gu can't understand it all, it is fine to understand 30 to 40%. It's boring if you don't understand anything. Feeling bored, Gu no longer pays attention to the chatter between the chief and his blood relatives. He counted the number of outsiders this time. 137 people. Not much, but not too many, and it's hard to say whether this is all. After all, it's still a bit difficult to raise a primitive tribe of nearly 500 people based on this, right? Why do you want to talk about raising? The answer is very simple, because compared to the real traditional primitive tribes on the internet, the people in this tribe are too energetic, and there is no shortage of food and clothing at all. Under the primitive hunting system, there is no shortage of food and clothing. This must be an unreasonable situation. So it is not difficult for Gu to conclude from this that a lot of the food of this primitive tribe may be obtained through these outsiders. Although this tribe is trying its best to abandon foreign products, Gu can still see some truth in terms of food and seasoning. No wonder I always felt that something was wrong with this tribe before. It's clear now. As a closed primitive tribe, there are too few old people in this tribe. Except for the chief and more than a dozen other respected seniors, most of the people in this tribe are all young women, strong men, and some healthy infants and young people. There is no sick and weak person? Is this reasonable? From this point of view, many people in this tribe should live a normal life and live in another place. Gu has his own conclusion, and at the same time he believes it. After all, these gunmen have all appeared. It can be inferred that the place where I am, these oak tree communities, and the existence of the road to this tribe may really have a strong symbolic or inheritance significance. Otherwise, this can't explain why these people exist here in the way closest to the original life. As night fell, the ritual activities began. Under Gu's gaze, the biggest wild boar howled and was pushed down on the stone platform under the oak tree by several big men. After the long knife stabbed a terrible wound on the wild boar's neck, blood spewed out immediately. The howling of the wild boar kept on, but with the loss of blood, its howling continued to weaken until it completely lost its sound. The blood ran down the stone platform, and along the pit under the stone platform, it quickly merged into a blood pool pit directly under the oak tree. Seeing this scene before him, Gu called out, a waste. If this is made into blood, how many meals will you eat? It's a violent thing. These flies and maggots are really cheap. This scene of killing pigs almost overlaps with the scene of Gu watching his own pig killing when he was a child, making him feel nostalgic for a while. Although he was a little physically uncomfortable, Yu read www.yuyugonshu.com, but his childhood memories quickly made him feel that way. Wild boars are constantly being chased up to the sacrificial platform, and the blood is constantly gathering. The small groove under the tree, the blood pool is almost overflowing. However, after the 9th wild boar was slaughtered, the blood sacrifice finally ended here. Then, of course, it was another long chant of the tribe elder wearing a feather crest hat. Then, accompanied by all the aboriginals and outsiders bowing down, the prelude to the sacrifice is considered complete. But just after all these people stood up, the elders of the tribe on the high platform suddenly approached the foot of the holy tree of Gu. Then I saw the tribe elder suddenly taking the scimitar handed over by the old man. Grabbed a touch of green, and the elder quickly cut it off with a machete. At this time, Gu seemed a little puzzled. This? It doesn't seem to be a branch of yourself, right? Gu can see clearly what the green plants cut by the tribe's elders. That is a bunch of things like tree saplings. This thing does not grow from the ground and coils around the oak tree, but directly emerges from the oak tree and grows like a small shrub. And if you take a closer look, Gu can find that there are many such plants on his oak tree. They are short and parasitic in clusters on oak trees. When did these things come out? Ji Yuming remembers yesterday that all his branches and trunks were bare, well, except for his own branches and leaves. So, Ji seemed a little confused and worried. Ji intends to go to the internet to check the action of the elders of the tribe below. Time flickered, and 10 days passed quickly. A lot of changes have taken place in Ji's body in the past week or so. Player status: good acquired trait, high vitality. From the data panel, it can be seen that Ji's body has been significantly improved. In fact, Ji's body has indeed recovered as before. Through an examination at another hospital, Ji's current lung health seems to have never had tuberculosis, without any calcification or damage. In short, now Ji's heart disease has finally fallen. In addition to the recovery of pulmonary tuberculosis, Ji's body has undergone another slightly surprising change. That's Ji's height. He has grown 2 centimeters unexpectedly. The original height of only 1.74 meters, he actually grew to 1.76 meters, just 10 days. This change can make Ju happy for a while. Although 1.74 was not short before, but overall Ju still feels a little regretful, and now that his body develops again, he finally sees the hope of making up for his regrets. Now in more than a week, Ju has recovered from his illness, his height has increased, and even his original belly has shown superficial abdominal muscles. Under the accumulation of various changes, Ju is of course overjoyed. Except for Ju's own changes, his game avatar has actually changed the most. Now the oak tree's growth has reached its extreme half an hour ago. Oak state: good characteristic, high vitality. The various states of the oak tree have all reached their extremes, and even one of the original characteristics that was originally damaged has been completely restored. Sacrifice gain: in this regard, the oak tree can be regarded as the so-called holy tree. It's no wonder that this tribe can clearly live in a civilized world, but the tradition is still not lost. However, from the restoration of the sacrifice gain characteristic of oak tree, Ju also understands that there are still some mysterious things in the materialistic world he lives in. Putting aside the original feature of oak restoration, the tendai rise of oak trees is extremely appalling. Has grown nearly 50 meters in height in just 10 days, with an average height of nearly 5 meters per day. The speed that is as fast as a video lens is really amazing. For this reason, the people of the primitive tribes are very excited, and there are more and more outsiders personnel who come with guns. In the periphery of the tribe, gunmen patrolled back and forth, as if they were actively preparing for something that might happen. GU roughly estimated that the number of people patrolling the periphery of the primitive tribe at this moment has exceeded the number of local indigenous people before. With GU's current height of the oak tree, he only has a slight view to see that a large number of camouflage cars, tents, etc. are gathered in a leveled place 3 kilometers away from the tribe. Because this tribe may be a so-called holy place, many modern artifacts are not allowed to enter. So these outsiders rest and gather there conveniently. Carefully counted down. These outsiders gathered nearly 700 people in these 10 days, and all of them were armed. Is so exaggerated and valued so much, one can imagine the importance of oak trees to this tribe. The importance of this oak tree as the basis of faith is certain, but GU feels that the economic value embodied by the oak tree will certainly not be low. Otherwise, the defense of this tribe is obviously unreasonable. And where is the economic value embodied by the oak tree? This tribe does not rely on the oak holy land to develop tourism. GU thought about it, and the biggest economic value of this oak tree may only be the mistletoe. Given the extraordinariness of this oak tree, can the mistletoe parasitic on the oak tree be ordinary? Mistletoe has a very high medicinal value, and it may also mutate. According to online records, mistletoe has anti-tumor effects. After its mutation, GU has reason to suspect that it can even fight cancer. If this mutated mistletoe can really fight cancer, then this tribe's defenses are really reasonable now. Thinking about it this way, even if there are nearly 700 modern armed men around to protect himself, GU is beginning to worry about the safety of his incarnation. However, thinking about it carefully, GU's worries quickly dissipated. The reason is simple. Because GU's own illness has healed, even if the incarnation of the oak tree is finished, even if the blessings he obtained disappear, it doesn't seem to have much effect on him, right? Besides, the armed forces of this tribe are so strong, if they can generally exchange interests, shouldn't some people think of spending a lot of money to fight for it? Moreover, GU's avatar is a tree, does he need to worry about others coming to kill him? After all, he belongs to the contended interests. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com is not one of the forces attracted by the interests. Thinking about it so carefully, GU quickly put aside this unnecessary worry. Looking around slightly, watching the surrounding green mountains, watching the occasional flying birds and small animals on the top of the rainforest, GU quickly lost his mind. At this moment, he is planning to do another level of meditation according to the guidance task of Phase 2 just released by the game system. As for other thoughts, everything is temporarily forgotten. Guide task: please try to imagine a tree absorbing sunlight and produce photosynthesis in your thoughts. At this stage, you need to accumulate experience orbs. After 100% of the experience orbs are accumulated, you can break through the current oak tree's growth limit. Current progress, 0.00%. Teacher, I have some doubts. Are we really here this time just to buy the so-called rare medicinal materials? We are all here now, should you give me some real information? Anderson frowned and looked at the two heavily armed men sitting in front of the helicopter cabin, looking very confused. He endured all the way, and finally couldn't help but ask the old man in front of him again. As an academician of the famous Medical College of the Federal Republic of Barna, Anderson was a little dizzy by the mysterious secrets of his teacher along the way. After all, no matter how rare the medicinal materials are, the purchase should not be left to the researchers who are in charge of research and development, right? What's more, his status as a teacher is more respected than him, and his medical accomplishments enjoy a certain reputation in the world. Just such a character, let him personally buy medicinal materials? It's really weird not to leave the wizards. In the depths of the rainforest, there is a flat camp less than 3 kilometers from the oak tree. At this moment, 3 helicopters and more than a dozen large off-road vehicles that have just driven in from the rainforest are parked here. Standing on a high ground, at this moment Simon is leading these newly arrived outsiders looking at the tall sacred tree not far away. Everyone, about the rejuvenation of the sacred tree of this clan, I don't think you will doubt it anymore, right? As for why the sacred tree has recovered and how it has grown to its present appearance, I think only God knows this. Simon looked a little inexplicably sad, and he spoke with a slightly solemn tone. By the way, you guys don't expect to be able to take the instrument to check or obtain the data of the sacred tree this time, because my grandfather will not agree. Of course, now I and my people will not agree. Simon said and looked around everyone around him with his eyes, and gave them a warning look. Regarding Simon's warning, most of these outsiders have selectively ignored it. These people all have their own backgrounds, because they have more or less identities in the Sito countries. So these people actually have a natural sense of superiority to the local natives such as Simon. In the eyes of many of this group of people, the Aboriginal group of Simon is just a tool for planting medicine for them. Use as needed, if not needed, it's just a native, and it can be easily wiped out at some price. However, although these people despise Simon and ignore Simon's warning at all, they will still behave very kindly on the surface of their civilization. After all, there is no need to tear his face. At this moment, these people looked at the thick oak tree in the distance, and most of them were lost in thought. They thought about the reason for the miracle that oak tree showed in its rebirth. Was also thinking about how much it would cost the Simons to allow them to get close to the oak tree and realize the scientific research. After all, in the world of capital, there is nothing that money cannot solve. Therefore, most of the attitudes shown by everyone at this time were gentle smiles at Simon, but at the same time they were also beginning to think about the other side of the problem. That is about the belief that the oak tree culture is rooted in the cultures of the West York countries. Treating oak trees, dealing with Druid culture, the Western Union people, they have a sentiment of faith that they have had since childhood. So, when I saw that the oak tree in front of me really recovered and grew into a giant tree of 100 meters in just over a week, some of them had some innate awe and piety in their hearts. At the same time, some individual characters have a strong desire to protect and want to protect this miraculous thing. This kind of psychology is like the culture of worshipping ancestors in the Eastern Lion culture. It is different. What's more, in recent years, there has been a purple moon phenomenon that is difficult for everyone to explain and control. Therefore, when dealing with this miraculous oak tree, and dealing with this plant that holds a strong position in the Siho faith, it is difficult for these people to reach a certain consensus. After all, the most difficult thing in the world to deal with is the issue of faith. And it is precisely because of this that Simon will notify all the agents in the Bana area to come in the first time. In order to protect themselves, these people can only restrain each other. Simon doesn't know what these people are thinking, but he has his own clear goal at the moment. That's Fanny Owen, who is the first power in the West York country on his left, the American Medical Department. After seemingly inadvertent, Simon continued to say to himself, in order to improve the lives of the people as much as possible, our clan planted the seeds of the holy medicine on the holy tree, which has already made the gods unhappy. I think the death of the sacred tree before is also from the warning of the gods, warning us of insatiable greed. So, after our clan's discussion, our clan decided that we will no longer carry out too many human interventions for the holy medicine produced on the holy tree in the future. Therefore, I contacted you this time to explain this matter. Of course, it is necessary to renegotiate the price of the holy medicine. What do you think? Hearing what Simon said, most of the representatives of the countries on this trip showed a smile that was already known. The price? Of course this can be renegotiated. However, after this, we need to check whether the pharmacology of the mistletoe produced by the oak tree has changed. If the medicinal ingredients are stronger, that's okay, but if the medicinal ingredients are reduced, then I am embarrassed. A middle-aged man smiled and spoke. His remarks obviously got everyone's approval, but some people still came out to make other supplements. There are only 4 oak trees in the world that can produce cancer-resistant mistletoe. I won't say more about the importance of them. Chief Simon, you have to know that the reason why you have been able to own this oak tree without being disturbed is also because you are protected by our Siho Secret Keepers Alliance. People, it's better to know how to be grateful and content. What do you mean? Your Excellency Simon. The old man's posture and tone are a little inexplicably arrogant. But Simon was not angry, he just looked at the old man lightly and said calmly. Indeed, Professor Anthony was right. However, I think that our family has been planting holy medicine for you for nearly 2 generations. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com has long been grateful enough, right? Furthermore, the sacred tree of our clan has died once in order to plant the sacred medicine. You have sent someone to check and keep a photo before this incident. Isn't it our clan cheating? Now that the sacred tree has recovered and displayed miraculous warnings, if we continue to expand the planting of the holy medicine, will you not be afraid of being sent by the gods? Fulfilled by the gods. Reed, the representative of the kingdom of Inns, laughed. Simon frowned, and everyone else looked at Reed. Reed smiled at everyone, and at the same time looked at Simon again, and said, "Everyone is sensible, so please don't speak such nonsense, Sir Simon. Money is not a problem, we will definitely give you a price that satisfies you, but now that the oak tree has recovered and is even better than before, doesn't Sir Simon feel that it should be expanded?" Reed looked around at everyone present and said in a natural tone. "Think about it, how many doses of anti-cancer drugs can we produce in a year? The amount is less than 150 people, and the amount is distributed to each of the 12 countries. With just such a small amount of output, how can it be possible? Can the demand be met? Now that the oak tree has grown for some reason, you may have deep concerns, but in the current world, even unreasonable disasters such as the purple moon occur from time to time. Is it possible that the mutation and recovery of a tree is still there for you? Is there anything you can't accept? Don't think of the so-called gods just because it's an oak tree. Sometimes it's wisest to make things simpler. Paying attention to reality is the truth. As for faith, sometimes it is actually possible to make concessions. What do you think?